Welcome back to another tutorial, and in today's tutorial we're going to learn how to make these 3D printable stackable construction cones inside Fusion 360. This is a quick and simple tutorial that anyone can do, and with that said, let's go ahead and jump right into it and get started. Okay, so to get started with this design, the first thing we want to do here is hover over to the left hand side, click on Create, New Components, and let's go ahead and name this component to construction cone and press OK. The next thing we want to do here is draw a quick sketch. To do that, we can hover over to the left hand side, clicking on Create Sketch, then selecting the front plane here. From here, what we want to do is to create a center rectangle. To do that, we're going to hover over to Create, Rectangle, then select Center Rectangle. What this allows us to do is basically draw out a rectangle from the center point wherever we select within our canvas. So from here, we're going to draw out a center point from the origin and then just drag this out with our mouse. Now on screen, you'll be presented with two different dimensions. The one as shown on the left and one as shown on the top, which is basically the width and the length. You could toggle tab on your keyboard to switch in between the two. I'm going to change the one on the left to around 2.5 millimeters. Pressing tab on my keyboard, which switches to the one on the top, I'm going to set this to around 40 millimeters. Once that's done, I'll press enter on my keyboard, then click on finish sketch. From here, let's go ahead and zoom right into our canvas, selecting the profile which we created, pressing E on our keyboard, which basically allows us to extrude this profile, and you'll be presented with a couple of different options. The first thing I want to change here is the direction. We're going to change the direction from one side to symmetric. This basically allows us to drag out this arrow on screen, and both sides will also represent the exact same value, meaning that if this is shown on the right hand side 15, on the left it will also show 15 as well. I'm going to stretch this out to around 20 millimeters and press OK. Once you have your value set to 20 millimeters, press OK on screen. And now you have a new solid body shown within Fusion 360. The next thing we need to do here is to create the cone portion of our design. To do that, the first thing we could do here is double click on the sketch menu shown on the bottom left. Now, the cool thing about Fusion is that you can actually go back in time by double clicking on a previous feature that you added. Double click on this. And then the next thing we want to do here is to create the shape of our cone. To do that, we're going to use the line feature within Fusion by selecting line on the top left-hand corner. Then from the bottom, what we want to do is drag out or draw a line anywhere along this path here. Selecting this line here and kind of just bringing this up to the very top. Now, it doesn't matter how high, we'll go ahead and set the dimensions later, but I'm going to set this to directly in the middle as shown on our green line here. Then dragging this back down all the way back to the bottom and press OK. From here, the first thing we want to do here is dimension the tallest line here. Pressing D on our keyboard, selecting this line here, and what we want to do here is set this value to 45 millimeters. The next thing we want to do here is set a dimension between this dot shown on the bottom right hand side and this edge here. Pressing D on your keyboard, selecting the bottom dot here to the right hand side, then let's set the value here to around 5 millimeters. What we've essentially done is set the distance in between this dot to this edge here to around 5 millimeters, then also creating a certain amount of height for the top or the largest line here. So that way we get a estimated or a much more proper size for our cone here. Now with that done, the next thing we need to do here is create a fillet because cones don't have a sharp edge at the very top. To do that, we can press S on our keyboard, then type in fillet. We're going to go ahead and select the second option as shown as this line with kind of like a bluish curve here. Then selecting the top two lines here as shown on screen. And you should see that Fusion 360 might automatically change or move your fillet somewhere along this canvas. If it does, or if it did, you can just move this arrow back up and kind of fix it so that way it doesn't stay all the way down there. I'm going to set this value to around, let's just say 1 millimeter. Press OK. Now with that done, we can click on Finish Sketch. And now using this profile, we can press S on our keyboard, type in Revolve. And this allows us to select this profile on screen, select the axis. We're going to use the green line once again, or the line here. And now we're basically able to revolve this profile, this 2D profile, into a 3-dimensional body. Once that's done, press OK. Now with that completed, we can go ahead and hover over to the left-hand side, toggle on our construction cone, toggle on sketches, and then turn off sketch 1. Lastly, let's go ahead and add a fillet to each of these corners here shown on screen, pressing F on our keyboard. And what I want to do here is select each edge along our square. And I'm going to fillet this in to, let's just say, around 3 millimeters. Now with that complete, the next thing we need to do here is to create some sort of shell inside so we're able to stack the cones on top of each other. To do that, we're going to press S on our keyboard, type in shell, then selecting the blue icon here. From here, we're going to select the bottom face, and what this allows us to do is to basically create a cutout or an inside thickness, specifically inside this face here. I'm going to set the inside thickness to around 2.5 millimeters. Once that's done, it's basically created a cutout or an opening for our design, which looks good to me. Press OK. Lastly, the next thing we need to do here is to create some sort of offset here. Now, the reason why we need to create some sort of offset is because just imagine if we were to try to stack these cones on top of each other. Now, as an example, I'm going to go ahead and duplicate this cone myself. And as you can see, if I were to duplicate this, create a copy, then create some sort of section analysis, you can see that we want our cones to kind of fit as much into our design as possible. But this kind of leaves a lot of space in between here. Now, to kind of fix that, we can actually use some sort of offset and press pull this, so that way you can create much more of an opening inside, so that way there's not that much space in between the two parts. To do that, what I'm going to do is right click on this inside face here. Then click on press pull. Now by default, it might automatically have it set to modify existing feature or automatic. I want you to select this to new offset. By selecting new offset, we're allowed to select this face and actually create a new offset for this instead of the existing shell that we created for our design. I'm going to set the distance here to, let's just say, -0.2. And basically that's created a little bit more of a gap or an opening into our design. We can also change this to -0.4, creating a much more wider opening for these cones to stack on top of each other. Keep in mind, this is not a necessary part to this design. Rather, we're just creating more of an opening so that way these cones can kind of sit more flush into each other. With this value already set, press OK. The next thing we need to do here is export this to our slicer. To do that, we can go ahead and click on bodies, right click on body 1, save as mesh, and then press OK. From here, you may have noticed that we don't have the lines, more specifically the orange and white lines for our design here. Now, you don't actually have to add that within Fusion, and the reason why is because we can actually use this tool within Bamboo Studio called layer height, more specifically when it comes to coloring this product. So, for example, I'm going to set the color of this product to orange. Then I'm going to select this paint bucket tool on the top right hand side, select the shortcut key 1 or selecting the white icon here, making sure you have the white filament loaded up, then also changing this to height range. I'm going to set the height range to around, let's just say 6.5. Now within Bamboo Studio, I can go ahead and select a path along this body here and kind of just select anywhere along this path here that kind of fits where I want this pattern to be. And now with that completed, you basically have a construction cone fully designed within Fusion 360, ready to be 3D printed and fully multicolor without having to add on these separate pieces into this specific design. So with that said, that pretty much wraps up today's video. By the end of this video, you should have learned exactly how to design your own 3D printable construction cones inside Fusion 360. If you want to get access to more guides, resources, and tutorials like this, maybe even learn how to create articulated designs or functional designs for 3D printing, and maybe even start your own business with it, make sure to check out the 14-day design challenge with link in the description. We go over more advanced guides, topics, and resources for people just getting started, and as well as further your skill set around 3D printing. If you want to get access to that challenge, make sure to check out the 14-day design challenge with link in the description. But with that said, make sure to like, subscribe down below, and I'll see you guys in the next one.